Competitive Fortnite is in trouble. There's been some recent news that has a lot of pro players extremely worried about the future of their careers, and this is pretty much challenging the current state of the pro scene. I'm going to talk about what happened. I'm also going to talk about what Epic can do, but also what the players can do to hopefully save competitive Fortnite. So here's the big news. Bugha, one of the most popular, if not the most popular pro player in the world, the World Cup champion, he just got dropped from his esports team, Sentinels. And what's interesting is just last year, he actually signed a multi-year contract with them, and now they are ending that contract early. They didn't just drop him, they also dropped Zypher and Aspect. They are pretty much completely out of the Fortnite competitive scene. And pro player Muzz basically said on Twitter, if Bugha is getting dropped from his competitive Fortnite org, there really is no hope for the future of Fortnite competitive, and that may or may not be true. I'll explain why later in this video, but it's definitely worrying. And some orgs will just completely leave Fortnite, while others will just reduce their player count and only focus on the players that actually make content. So why did Sentinels drop Bugha, and why did they pull out of Fortnite? Well, the CEO actually had some things to say on Twitter. As our organization maps out the future, our strategy is to focus on games that provide the opportunity to activate for our sponsors or offer team branded in-game content. These are two really important parts. Fortnite has not offered either of those, and I'm announcing today that we will no longer be competing in Fortnite. This is huge because there's not a lot of tier 1 esport teams left in Fortnite. You know, that's a whole other problem because there are pro players and content creators and Fortnite creators that are just getting scammed by organizations that are promising to pay them a certain amount, and they're just not getting paid. Like, there's literal scam orgs going on, and we went from having like a bunch of tier 1 orgs down to just a few, and now one of them just left. It's a pretty big deal. So what is he actually asking for? An opportunity for our pro players to activate on our sponsors. Let's say, for example, you have a team like TSM, and McDonald's wants to pay TSM in exchange for some promotion. So TSM put the McDonald's logo on their jerseys. They'll have it on their streams and videos. That's where the value comes from. In Fortnite, however, most of the tournaments in the past couple of years have been online, and a lot of the pro players do not even stream the tournaments, let alone stream in general. So these sponsors do not really have the opportunity to be seen at all. Now, let's talk about the second aspect of the tweet, branded in-game content. We have seen this in games like Apex Legends, Rainbow Six Siege, Call of Duty. They'll have esport team skins and weapon wraps. Those teams actually get a small percentage of the revenue, so it becomes a revenue source for them. In Fortnite, that does not exist. The closest thing we have to it is content creators and icons getting their own skins in the game. And honestly, I don't think Fortnite ever has plans to make that happen. And they don't really need to, because Fortnite is collaborating with LeBron James, Nike, Marvel, DC. Like, it's on a different level when it comes to these collaborations, and they'd rather dedicate the time to these big collabs instead of org collabs, because at the end of the day, it is small time compared to what they usually work with. So what does this mean? There's literally no way for these orgs to actually turn a profit from their pro players. The pro players are not streaming. They're not giving exposure to the sponsors. And that means these orgs are actually losing money for their signed pro players. And that is why Bugha got dropped. I mean, he does create content and stream, but at the end of the day, as a pro player, it's hard for them to activate. Even with his audience, it's not enough to turn a profit. Now, I'm sure Bugha will find someone else, but for the other pro players, they're in a pretty tricky situation. All these esport teams leaving means that it's going to be harder to be a full-time Fortnite pro. Let me explain. I'm looking at the top earnings of all Fortnite pro players right now, and based on the numbers I'm looking at, there's only about 150 players in the entire world who have earned $100,000 or more competing in Fortnite. A lot of these pro players have been competing for 4 years now. So the guys who've made $100,000 in competitive Fortnite, if you divide that by 4, that's about $25,000. That's around minimum wage or just above. And some of them cannot make a living competing in Fortnite, period. What the esport orgs offered was a consistent salary to compete and focus on being the best player you can possibly be. Now that a lot of the tier 1 orgs are leaving, these pro players who don't have a following or create content are not going to be making enough money to be full-time professional players. So the thing is, no one's guaranteed to be a pro player, and it's not not like Fortnite expected these people to be pros and is obligated to give them the opportunity to become pros, but we definitely want to see this scene succeed. And right now, there's definitely a lot of uncertainty as to what's going on in Fortnite. We recently had an FNCS LAN Invitational, and Fortnite hosts the 4 FNCS a year, but no one really knows what's going on, if there's going to be a World Cup Part 2 or when the next LAN event is going to be for sure. And it's hard for these pro players to plan for that when they're kind of uncertain. Another part of it is that it's hard to be excited about some of these tournaments due to the lack of exposure that happens in the streams and content. Long are the days where you can actually jump between 30 plus streams of different people's perspective and follow individual storylines as they compete in the tournament. Another thing that's really important is the items and loot pool. If you think about some of the most watched tournaments in Fortnite, they also had some of the most bugged and overpowered weapons. We're talking about the mythic sword, planes, mechs, drum shotguns, combat shotguns. A lot of the previous seasons were very basic loot pools where they were very competitive. But something about having the most competitive and like standard loot pools, it actually makes the viewership very repetitive, and it feels like each season there's no flair or uniqueness. Now, it seems like there's a bit of a shift because this chapter we still have the hammers in competitive, and we still have the new shield in competitive. People are actually asking for that to be removed because they feel like it's not competitive enough. But guys, come on, it's Fortnite. This is not Valorant esports. This is not CSGO, the most competitive, esport 5v5 you can get. It's a battle royale in a cartoonish universe with Marvel and DC and all these collabs. So we know the situation right now, but what needs to happen for the future? Well, the reality is that Epic and the pro players both have to play a part in breathing some life into the Fortnite competitive scene. So let's first thing talk about the pro players, all right? Not enough of them are streaming or creating content. And I'm not asking all of them to stream. It's not meant for everybody, but there is content that can be made. Like, let's say you go win a tournament or you place in a cash cup and you end up making some maybe TikToks or shorts or maybe even a YouTube series about how you did it. You want an org to notice your content. Being good at the game is not enough to be picked up, especially in Fortnite. The second part is how pros criticize the game. I understand you're very invested. I understand it means a lot to you. It's very important that when you're communicating your thoughts about where you want to see the game or what problems you have with competitive, that you do it in a constructive manner. If the scene wants to be taken seriously, there has to be some sort of maturity and some self-accountability on top of some commitment to creating content for your own sake and so that there's more people interested in what you guys are actually doing. Now, if you're a pro player watching or someone who wants to be a pro player, I understand. I'm not asking you guys to do fashion shows and to become content creators if that's not something you want to do, but doing something small could actually go a really long way, especially with how talented and skilled a lot of you guys are. You guys have that insight and perspective that a casual player does not have, or even someone who plays the game a lot does not have. And I know things are a little bit uncertain, and that's where the second part comes in. The uncertainty needs to be addressed by Epic. What Epic needs to do is what some other games have done in the past with their own development and own competitive scene, is give us some sort of roadmap. Sometimes games will come out and be like, all right, guys, this is our plan for the next 2 years. These are some of the major things we want to do. We want to host tournaments for this. Maybe there's going to be a World Cup in 2024. Right now, we are in the dark. And if they give us something, it gives us something to look forward to, because right now there isn't a lot of hope. And I think that would give us what we need. And I think if both sides work together towards achieving this goal, we could be looking at a very exciting and completely new look at Fortnite Competitive in 2023.